Right, so we're gonna make a video today about the Colnago Y1RS. Now, this video is gonna mainly focus on the geometry of the bike because I don't think that's really been covered, and the handlebar options as well, because that's kind of what is actually realistically going to define if people are going to buy a bike more than most other things. Obviously, this bike's prohibitively expensive compared to other bikes, but it's still interesting. So this is the main design. I assume everyone's seen the videos. It's got this kind of weird four non-triangle middle. It's got the same as, basically it's an S5, isn't it? Let's be honest, the fork is the same as the S5. The way it's got the thing that goes in front, the steer, is actually this part. So it's got like a shield. The handlebars are very similar to the S5. The rear of it, in order to get the seat in the right place, they obviously didn't put it where the seat stays come out, which is like fair enough. Obviously that must be some kind of aerodynamics. The bottles are quite nicely hidden down here as well, which is interesting to see. That they didn't go for AERO bottles, they just went for round bottles. But yeah, apart from that, I mean, the stuff that's wild is the seat clamp. So you can only have like 1.5 centimeter adjustment. I think it could be an issue to maybe get the right saddle height, especially if you've got really high saddle height compared to the frame you ride. And the handlebars are also interesting, which we'll get into. So the kind of speed, like I think also the front end is pretty wild in terms of like how narrow it is here. So you can see like it's super not, it's almost speed sniffer-esque with this, but I'd say that's interesting. And the handlebar shape is like the hover bar from back in the day. It's interesting to see. I think we'll go into the geometry and see how it goes, but yeah, there's definitely some interesting stuff going on this bike. So and kind of scroll down, cutting edge aerodynamics, 20% quicker than the V4S. Now, if we actually go have a look, obviously the Tour magazine testing. Now, you've got to take all these wind tunnel testing with some pinch of salt. Like, you know, the difference between the TCR Advanced 240 and that is probably like 20 watts. Like, people often say, like, the difference in real world, maybe it's half, maybe it's not. But you like, sometimes the difference is, they're probably right, but I don't know if they sometimes people think they could be over-exaggerated. But if you actually look at the Colnago, it's really not very quick at all. So it's at 221 watts. So it's the same as a Sculptura or kind of an Amondo. I mean, it's really not fast. You know, okay, it's as fast as the Noah Disc 105, but you know, the wheels were quite bad here. Well, the Colnago, I think, had the full UAE spec, so it's not very quick. It's slower than a lot of bikes that I don't think people think are very quick. So if you kind of take that it's 20 watts quicker at 50k an hour, obviously this is done at 40k an hour, I think, the Tour magazine testing. You know, you'd say, okay, it's 201 watts. So it's probably not that much quicker because obviously the differences are exaggerated at a higher velocity. So it's probably around 205 watts. And when they said it's like 1 watt quicker than their competitor, I mean, I think their competitor probably is the S5. I mean, that's assume what UAE said. We said they just want an aero bike like an S5. So it's probably quick. I mean, do you know what I mean? It just kind of has to be. The weight is also interesting. The handlebars are odd. And yeah, so here it is, the 20 fewer watts than the V4S to maintain 50k an hour. Could that be true? Yeah, probably. The V4S is slow, so I don't think it's that wild. I think the thing that's interesting is also the weight of it. So it says 7.5 with pedals, which is actually not bad if they can get that, but that is probably fully blinged out. And then they get obsessed with blockchain. But anyways, it's an interesting bike for sure, and it's good that some people are doing different stuff. But I think what's kind of more interesting is like how does this bike actually fit? You can obviously read the white paper, but to be honest, I don't really want to read a white paper from some random people. So the options are, obviously you just get Dura-Ace, Super Record, or ETAP, Ceramic Red. Like we don't deal with non-top tier group sets, so you keep scrolling down. So they said here, size medium, Dura-Ace power meter, MV 4.5, 7.2 kilo without pedals. So with pedals, you know, 7.4 plus bottle cage plus like maybe a computer mount if it doesn't have it, 7.5-ish. So with Dura-Ace, it is heavy. In my opinion, like it's not, if you're a normal person and buy it, it will be like 7.8 because you probably won't have Dura-Ace necessarily, or like just small stuff will be different. It's quite nice. It comes with ceramic speed headsets, but for this much money, it's kind of expected. You can spec what size cranks you want, but only 170. So even Poggy spec, you can't get 165s, and then it's got all the different kind of tires and stuff you can get. But what's kind of more interesting in my head is the geometry. Now, it's not on Geometry Geek. Alright, so going over to Geometry Geeks, we're going to have a look at the kind of medium Y1RS and compare it. And what you can see is very similar to the V4S. Assume for Poggy they were just like, I want the same bike. it's more or less same 3 millimeters of reach difference, 540, 539 stack. So basically the same, which means you can get more or less the same position. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work with the handlebars, because I believe they kind of flare upwards a bit. So maybe he'll have to size down a bike. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like you could get a very similar position if you wanted to. I just thought I'd also pick the foil because that's like another AERO bike. The geometry is a bit odd here, which maybe I'll show in a different on a different page. But basically, like you can see, it's not too dissimilar. 8mm longer stack, 8mm high stack on the foil. The reach is 389, but on the foil, the geometry actually, you can see here is the reach between sizes is actually very similar. It's really just the stack you're changing. So you can see there's just 20mm difference between the small and the medium. So it's like a bit of an odd bike to compare to, but I think it's not the most. The Scott 4 is very aggressive, would be my view as I've ridden it. I think the more interesting one is maybe how it changes at the smaller sides. So I think this is probably where I think if you were on either extreme, it might not be the bike for you. So you can just see, if we look at the small sizes first, the 420 and the 455, the reach is 370, 375. You can see here the reach is less than that. So that's not too bad. It kind of fits this. But then the stack here is 495. And I think maybe that's to do with the handlebars, that will accompany, but it is not the same at all. Well, on the other bikes, it seems like it's easy to get it. And then you kind of look at the small, 377, 520. That's more similar. So I think it's just on the small bike, the extra small bike, where it doesn't really fit the 420 as much. It's similar reach, but the stack is quite different. So that's a little bit odd. And I think also if we look at the other range, if we kind of go towards if we look at the extra large, obviously there's more sizes on the V4RS. So you do have to bear that in mind. They're not going to be able to compare it. Like the 570, it just doesn't exist. You know, it's not too far off. Maybe it's 6mm, but the stack's a lot longer, so you're going to need to change your stem length significantly. But if we look at the 550 and the extra large, it's not too dissimilar again, just a couple mil out. So it's really just the extreme sizes is where it's not perfect. Look at the large, 395, 565. So again, it's 10mm shorter on the V4, on the Y1RS, which is fine, I think. So I think like in terms of stack, it's a little bit lower on the Y1RS, which I think is fine because the handlebars should go up a little bit. So I think overall, you can see the kind of differences, like the 510 here, again, it's about 10mm difference on the reach on the stack, and the reach is pretty similar. Sorry, I'm getting kind of confused here. But anyway, I think ultimately it's not radically different, a lot of it. So like 557 here on the stack, so 17mm is quite different, I guess you could say. So there's some differences, but I think it's more at the extreme sizes. I think if I was very small or very tall, I probably wouldn't get this bike. If I was in the middle, I think you can work around it. Like this, the 510, the medium is maybe not perfect, but then you look at the 485, which I think is what Poggy's going to ride. It's more normal, 383, 540. So it's okay. It's just like there's not necessarily every size. They're going to be in between them. But luckily the stem sizes, which you'll see in a minute, there's a pretty wide range of sizes. What I think is more interesting, so the geometry is like, it is different, but then it's hard to say because of the handlebars. So we're going to go through the handlebar size now. First of all, it's very odd because it's just not round numbers. I don't really get that, but anyway, 377 or 397. So you get 38 or 40, which I think is like fine. I would obviously prefer 36, 38, 40, but of all the two sizes you're going to pick, it's good the biggest one is 40 and the smallest one is 38. So it's not too bad. So anyway, what you'll see here is trying to pick your size is obviously a little bit of chaos. So there's some flaring, so it flares to 40 centimeters if you get the 380, which I don't really get because 40 centimeters is very wide on the drops, but that is what it is. So you can see the drop is 130mm, the reach is 79mm, but obviously that's like measured there. So what they've kind of got is just like I guess more, if we go into another one, it should have it a bit more clear, but you can kind of see that the stem length here is 105, but you need to take into account the reach a lot more because it's like, I don't really know how to describe it. Obviously, it's like far away. So the lengths, though, I don't think are too bad. Like they go up to 135mm in 38 width, which is actually pretty good. So you can get a pretty aggressive position on this bike, which I think is quite nice. So in general, I'd say the handlebars are fine. They're just obviously going to rise up a little bit. And I don't really understand with the geometry exactly how you're going to be talking about this. So they have like all the angles down here, like virtual seat tube, BB drop and stuff. But realistically, you won't, I think it could be, you're just going to have to hope that it's going to fit. based on roughly the right size. There aren't many sizes to pick, to be honest, so it's probably not too difficult. Like, I just think it's not the easiest bike because the handlebars are so wild. So you can see like the stack is obviously to the base of here, but when the handlebars go up, it's kind of a bit confusing, and it didn't look that low either. So I do think the geometry of this bike maybe won't fit everyone, and they did say that 97% of people it won't fit. But anyway, in total, I think this bike's quite nice. It has integrated bar and stem, which have okay options. The sizes seem like they're somewhat sensible, but not maybe the best. And then like kind of the bike itself looks like I could imagine it being quite quick. I think the issue is, why would you buy it over a S5 or a Canyon AERO? I don't really know, but it is Colnago, so probably that's why. It's fashion, I guess. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Colnago. It's probably most of the stuff they say is true. Trying to fit it could be difficult, but it's probably not better than an AERO S5. So unless you have a lot of disposable income, it's probably not the biggest brain move to buy this bike over one of the other bikes. Anyway, cheers for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.